If you are a parent, please stop right here and listen to this video until the end. There is something important that I have learned through, coaching people and also experiencing this in life with my close family, friends, and many more. There are three things you should never do with your kid or kids, right? If you have more than one. The first and the foremost important thing is never ever fight with your spouse or your close family member in front of them. The kind of damage it does to your child is he or she start associating their life problem with that particular incident. What do I mean by that? If a child sees you fighting with your spouse or with your loved one or your close family member, maybe for money, he or she as an adult or in future starts associating or rather recollecting this as an event and connects with that situation in the future. The kind of damage that it does to your child is beyond imagination. He or she starts making that as a limiting belief that this is the reality. They, like for example, if they see a close family member or a spouse fighting between each other for money matter, they start making a belief in their mind that money is the root cause of all their problem, and this is not a good one, right? The first and the foremost thing, this is one thing that I wanted to share with you. Number two, never ever handle your child abusively, especially physically. For example, I have seen many parents who literally punish their child for scoring low. Please don't do that. Do not ever, never ever in your life deal with your child physically for being lesser than any other child in his or her life. The kind of long run impact that it's going to create for your child on his or her mind is irreparable. And why I say this is because I have seen a lot of mental challenges, limiting beliefs that I see in adults today when I mentor them, when I coach them. The biggest thing that I see in them is the fact on how they associate it. Like for example, if a child was always told that you're bad with maths and he or she was handled abusively during childhood or adulthood by their family or their immediate parents, or it could be anybody, the first and the foremost thing that happens to the child when he or she grows up is that he or she is not meant for numbers, or he or she cannot handle numbers well. So if you are treating that child's math subject this way, in the future that child starts believing that anything that's got to do with numbers is not my cup of tea, right? This is something which, see, anything that you do with your child as a child or as a teen, the biggest thing that happens to our parents is we just start trying to achieve things in the nick of the moment. But what we don't realize is that anything that's happening to child today, maybe you can achieve it today, maybe you can push the child for getting a better score, but what happens in the future? Do you realize the kind of impact you're making on your child's mind right here? He or she starts associating everything with that which he or she was punished for during childhood, and it's not a great sign at all. Never ever do this particular thing, especially with your child. Maybe your intention is to get the child, start studying, start reading, but or study well, get better scores because you're comparing your child with the other child. But remember this, anything that you're doing with your child is not temporary. It's gonna go so much long run that ultimately in future you will start looking for people who can handle their mental traumas and much more, because all this is coming out of the childhood, and this is something which you will end up spending money for to cure the child in the future. So if you're trying to achieve something today, great, but do you realize the impact on child's mind in the future? Like for example, you must be seeing, right, when the child is bullied, what happens with the child in the future? There's a lot of confidence issues that the child starts incorporating as and when she grows up or he grows up. So whatever you're doing is not something which will end today or which will stick with the child today. It's gonna go so much so that when he or she grows up, it's gonna damage a lot of aspects of life. And I'll tell you one more bigger example, right? This is something I have seen a lot of people doing this, and this happens when I connect with people. Often I hear this so much in their conversation. Many a times I have seen parents fighting in front of the child, and the child starts creating that marriage is not meant for me. I have seen parents fighting, they have achieved nothing out of their wedding, so what will I? They will start creating phobias of not getting married. They will start getting phobias of relationships is not meant for me because I've seen my parents struggling or I've seen my parents getting separated and so much more. So anything that you're doing, your child, remember, he or she is noticing, right? So I have one request today. Literally, I have one request. Please never ever from today, when you listen to this video, please stop fighting with your closest family member, especially on any matter. This is gonna imprint your child's mental health from the time he or she sees you fighting. Okay, so it's not about you always. It's also about your child, or it's also about the kids who are watching you. It could be your own family child, it could be beyond as well, it could be in your neighborhood and much more. So anything that the child is observing is gonna absorb with himself or herself, right? So never ever please fight for things which the child absorbs. And number two is never ever handle the child abusively, right? Because this is something that's gonna go long run with the child. And number three, the biggest one which I kind of see very, very, very common with the parents is they start comparing their child with someone else's child, right? Please don't do that. Everybody who is born and who is there in this world, everybody is unique. Each one comes with a unique talent, and nobody can repeat what this person is or what this child is. The kind of talent that one child carries, the other child does not, and so vice versa. So if you're comparing your child with someone else, remember, your child's situation when he or she was brought up versus the someone else's child is not the same. Your own family situation is not the same. Your own finger size in your hand is not the same. So if you're comparing one child with other child, even for that matter within your own siblings, right? Like if you have 2 kids or 3 kids, please never ever compare one child with the other. Never ever label them. Because once you start labeling one child that, you know what, your sister is better than your brother, she scores really well than you, she's smarter than you, she's intelligent than you, the child is imprinting those labels here. And they are going to make that as a big reality in their future. Do you want a child who is going to label and damage himself or herself much more? Or do you want to protect the child from all the other labels that can happen to him or her in the future? And remember, labeling to a child is happening from the parents itself, where they are not just comparing with any other child out beyond their family, they're also comparing within their own child. And what's going to happen? When he or she grows up, they will start believing that, you know what, I'm not good with maths because my parents used to say I used to struggle a lot, or I generally used to score less in my grades during my +2 or during my school or college. So basically, I am not an intelligent person. No, gone are the days when a child used to be measured by maybe numbers or the grades that he or she used to get. Now trust me, there are people who are flourishing in their life even without a degree or even without grades which are really a good one. It could be your child as well. But the point is, if you yourself are damaging and sabotaging your child, where will the child go? If we are always blaming that the society is treating my child this way, no, it starts from you at your own home or your own family members. So never ever fight in front of a child, never ever label a child and compare the child, and most importantly, never handle any child abusively, because everything that you're doing with him or her today registers. I'll tell you one classic example. There's a child that I got to know through my friend. Basically she's the mother of the child, and there was one thing that she was sharing with me very recently, and she told me that, you know what, Puchita, the challenge with my child is that she hates cooking, or rather she just doesn't like cooking, and I do such a good cooking, or I cook really well. And my only question to her back was, did you ever handle her abusively or forced her to do some kitchen work that she didn't like or she didn't want it to, and you forced her to do something way back when she was a child, or way back when she was getting grown up and things like that? Did you behave something like that? And the answer was yes. So basically what happened in this case was, because she handled or not really handled her daughter well when she was growing up, and she was pushing her for kitchen work, she actually started hating cooking. And today, no matter what, come what may, she just doesn't like cooking. Who created this drama or this impact to a child? It was her own mother. So, do you want to do something like this, where the child is suffering in the future as a grown up because of you as a parent? Remember, everything you're doing today to handle the child in the moment, maybe you'll be able to handle whatever may be. But in the future, you'll end up spending money, maybe on therapies, maybe on mental health. If you're a very serious parent, understanding all this dynamics of how the mind works or the brain works, you will be the one who will be taking the child to therapies and things like that for the damage you're doing today. So you are the biggest reason if the child is successful, or if for that matter the child is going to carry a lot of imprints in her or his mind. Now the point is very simple. Do you want to give that kind of an upbringing for long run to your child by doing something like this? Or do you want to be careful by not just taking care of short-term need, but even the biggest and the long-run need? Now the choice is yours. Remember, the child is absorbing everything that he or she is seeing, silently or visibly or invisibly. The child is able to absorb everything happening in the surrounding. It's not just about the money matter or the relationship. The values that you show in action is also what the child will develop. So now the choice is yours, whether you really want to take care of this, or you just want to handle in the age-old format of parenting. I have seen this with a lot of people, especially when I start guiding them, coaching them, mentoring them. The biggest thing that I start seeing with them is all this is coming from those memories, and then they end up working on their mental health by working on these kind of memories. Rather, why to get into all that? Rather just avoid it, and it's all in your hands. So from now on, please be careful when you're dealing with your child. Be very consciously aware that you are not going to fight in front of the child. You're not going to compare the child. You're not going to label the child. And it is yours. So it's got to be unique. It's got to be with a unique talent. Nourish that. Nourish the talent that any other child does not have, which your child has. It's your baby. You are the one who brought it up in this world. And it's not about just upbringing the child until he or she is like 14, 15. No, They are going to create their future with all the imprints they are going to be brought up with because of you. So please handle with care before it is super late. With that, love you loads. Pujita Singh signing off. Bye bye.